and welcome to episode 7 of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. I'm so happy you're here. This is episode 7. Like I said, it is titled My First Knit Night. My name is Hannah. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube, of course, as the Cozy Cottage Crochet, and on Ravelry, it's just the Cozy Cottage. I want to mention before we get started that if you have any questions or inquiries about the podcast specifically, the best way to get a hold of me is via email. If you could email me, that will ensure that I can get back to you. I try to keep up with all of the social medias, but I don't want to miss it if it's something important. So if you have anything to say about the podcast specifically or any questions or inquiries, please email me at thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. Cool? Okay, if you are a new viewer, hello, welcome. So glad you're here. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so happy that you've decided to share a little bit of time with me. I have some stuff to show you this week. I have a finished object, and we might as well just go ahead and get right into that because I'm wearing it. So my finished object and what am I wearing section are the one and the same today. So I finished my Venice lace top, which, let me show you a picture of the pattern. This is the pattern right here. Venice lace top. Now, I got this pattern out of the Easy Breezy Crochet Lace magazine that Crochet put out, Crochet magazine. I used for this the Lion brand 24/7 cotton yarn. It's a mercerized cotton. I think I bought 6 balls of it, and I have this much left. It's maybe half a ball of what's left, so I am pretty happy with the amount of yarn I used up. The pattern itself would have stopped. It was kind of a crop top, and I don't really do crop tops. They make me uncomfortable. If you can rock a crop top, more power to you, but I don't like them. I'd rather have like an off-the-shoulder top or something like that. So I kept going on the repeats. The pattern called for 8 repeats, which would have been 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It would have stopped right here. Right on my belly button, and I wanted it to be longer. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I added another 4 repeats to the pattern. And let me show you. This is the sleeve. It's got kind of like a little mesh type sleeve. It's made in 2 pieces, so there's the front piece, the back piece, and then there are 2 little sleeve pieces. So if my counting will get on board today, that is 4 pieces, not 2 pieces, and you seam them all up together. So I finished it. I actually am pretty much in love with it. I love wearing red. I love this top. I love the pattern. I don't think it looks too old-fashioned, even though it's made out of a crochet fan stitch. I'm just really, really happy with this. With a black tank top underneath and some dark jeans, it's going to be amazing. So this is the first time I've worn it. I washed it and blocked it, and I waited patiently until I was recording this podcast so I could share it with you guys first before wearing it out in the world. I actually finished this, I want to say a day or 2 after I recorded the last podcast 2 weeks ago, because all I had left to do was a couple of repeats on the bottom and then sew it together. So I did that right away, and then I had to wait for a week and a half to wear it. So I love it. I highly recommend this pattern. The pattern is in the magazine. I'm not sure if you can get it on Ravelry or not. It's by NT Maglia. And I don't know if that's like a company or a person, but that's what it says. Like normally it will say it's a person. I'm assuming that's a person. I mean, obviously a person had to write the pattern, but I don't know about this pattern. So it is called the Venice Lace Top, though. If you're interested, it's in this Easy Breezy Crochet Lace magazine. Hopefully you can get it on Ravelry. I don't know. So that is my finished object and what am I wearing all in one. I also have a possibly finished object because I can't decide if I'm done with it or not. I have been very, I want to say monogamous in my crocheting, but that's not true. I've been working on 2 projects pretty much only. They've gotten the majority of my attention. This is not one of them because it finished so quickly after my last podcast. So I've been working on my granny stripe blanket, which you guys heard about last week, and I've been working on my summer romance cowl project. So it's basically finished, but the pattern calls for a couple of extra things, which I'm not sure if I'm going to add or not. So first of all, you guys remember in the last episode I was having a conundrum. I did not know what to do because I was using the I Love This Cotton yarn, which is a worsted weight yarn, and I was trying to make it fit this pattern, which is the Sunshine Lace Top, which is also out of this same magazine. I bought this magazine because I need to make most of the patterns in here. But the pattern calls for a sport weight yarn, and this is a worsted weight yarn, so I was having problems getting gauge. I felt like it was going to be way too big, and I hadn't decided what I was going to do last time. I didn't really want to work out all the math to make it smaller, so I frogged it. I frogged the sleeve, and I went ahead with the pattern that was on the ball band. So this is the ball band that came with the I Love This Cotton yarn, the yellow yarn, and this is the sweater pattern. And this is how tiny the print is. It's basically like you need a magnifying glass to see that. But I decided to start the project because I really like the little sweater. And in this picture, it's kind of hard to see how great it is, but let me show you. I actually have the whole front and back done. Scoot back so you can see it. So we've got a whole front and a whole back done in these stripes. I've got the yellow and the gray of the Hobby Lobby I Love This Cotton. This is for my Summer Romance Cowl project, which is the Summer Romance Crochet Along is hosted by Claudia from the Crochet Luna podcast and Elizabeth from Crochet Cakes. Now, okay, my husband pointed out to me, because my couple is Wesley and Buttercup from The Princess Bride. I love that movie. It's always been one of my favorite movies. And he pointed out that this is gray and Wesley, Dread Pirate Roberts, should have a black stripe because the Dread Pirate Roberts wears black. But I didn't really want to use black because in this pattern, that would make me look like a bumblebee. And I didn't really want to look like a bumblebee, so gray and yellow it is. So I've got the gray and the yellow. This is how much I have left of the Hobby Lobby cotton. So it looks finished, right? Like it's got these little cap sleeves. It's kind of like this, only with no sleeve extensions. I'll give you a close-up of the shell pattern. I really like the shell pattern. It's very soft yarn. It's very drapey. It's not like super bulky. So what it calls for to finish it is on the sleeve edging, it wants an extra row of shells around each of the sleeves, and then some more shells right here. Let's see if I can show you this. So you see we've got the shells right here, and then it kind of stops going up the side, and then we've got shells up top. It wants the shells to go all the way around. I don't know if it needs that, really. I think it looks fine kind of the way it is, and I don't know that I want the shells on the edge. Like maybe I could do just a solid single crochet border. I don't know. Let's see if you can see it in the pattern. It's got the shells around the edges. I don't know. Was that too much movement for the camera? I'm very excited today. I slept in and I have a lot of energy. I never sleep in, so it was wonderful. So forgive me if I'm a little bit hyper today. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it needs extra shells? I don't think it needs extra shells. I think it's kind of fine the way it is. Even though it is cotton, it is a little heavy for summer. I was hoping, like this, I think I can wear right now in July in Florida because it's light, it's airy, it's got lots of holes. This I don't know. It's not as heavy as it could be, I guess, but because I love this cotton is very soft and drapey, but I'm thinking it's a little too thick to wear comfortably outside right now. I'm not sure. So tell me what you think. I am going to go ahead and submit. I have all my ends weaved in. Oh, that's another thing. So I don't know if you guys saw my picture on Instagram. Some of you did. I had this laid out on the floor, and there was like so many ends hanging off. So at least 4 on each stripe on each side. So plus a couple in the middle where I ran out of yarn. And my Instagram said, "Oh God, the ends! Oh no!" So I actually did something different with this sweater than I have with other garments in the past. So normally I sew in all my ends and then I seam it up if it's a seamed garment. But instead, I used the ends to seam it up and then weave them in. So if I had yellow ends here, I seamed up the little yellow section and then weaved the yellow end in, and gray and yellow and gray. So you can't, there's no like extra wrong color yarn poking through in a yellow section because I seamed it all up in one color or something like that. You can't tell. And this is the seam right here. I am so happy with this seaming. No, like it's so perfect. And maybe this is not a revelation to you. Maybe you have always seamed up striped garments with the ends, but I have never done that before, and it just occurred to me that I could do that instead of having to weave them all in and then seam them all together. So I am really happy with this seam. It fits really well. I think it's because I made it longer than the pattern calls for because I have a very long torso, so nothing of it fits me. Struggle is real. But it's just a tiny bit tight around my hips because I made it longer, so I'm thinking I might wear it once and then decide. I may undo this seam on the bottom stripe and just have it just separated on the bottom stripe to give it a little bit more ease. I don't know. I'm going to wear it. Tell me what you think, though. Do you think it needs shells on the edges? I feel like that would make it kind of a little froofy. Nothing against froofy if that's your thing. I just don't know that I want it to be part of this project. So this is my sweater, and I don't even know what to call it because it doesn't really have a name on the ball band. It just says striped sweater. And I looked for this pattern online because this print is so tiny that I was having a problem. So I looked for the pattern online and I couldn't find it on their website. So I had to use the ball band. So who knows? This is my Summer Romance Cow finished project. It went so quickly. I used a 6mm hook and the worsted weight yarn. It worked up so fast, and I carried it around with me everywhere. This is my, basically I would take it to work and work on it on a break and on lunch, and anytime I had a moment I would work on this project. And the whole thing is done. I'm really excited. So it's my possibly finished object. I'm going to fold it. You guys can see this might be it's really too thick for summertime. Because, I mean, that's a bulky sweater. If I roll it up, it'll be like a little striped log of crochet. So, finished object number 1, Summer Romance Cal, possibly finished object number 2. I will be submitting both of those to the Keep Calm and Carry Yarn podcast, which is their cow. They have the knitters versus the crocheters cow going on. And can I just say, the crocheters are killing it. I know they say that every week, but that doesn't mean that you need to stop posting your finished objects. So, I don't know how much yarn this is. Let's see. This is going to be at least 500 or 600 yards. And I love this cotton. I want to say it had like 200 something yards per ball. And I've used 2.5 balls of each one. So I'm going to add like 1,000 something yards to the total with my 2 garments, which I'm really, really excited about. So those are my finished objects. for the week. Okay, so now let's move on to works in progress. I do have a couple to show you. As I said, I have been crocheting very strictly almost on 2 projects, which is this sweater and my granny stripe blanket. But I do have a couple of other things to talk about. One crochet project used to be a finished object, but I have pushed it back into the work in progress category because it needs something done to it. And it is my crochet skirt. I actually wore this to my best friend's birthday dinner. This is made out of Universal Yarns Ariana, which is a bamboo polyamide yarn. I got it on clearance. These three balls I got on clearance at Tuesday morning for like $3, and then this one I had to order off of their website because it was not long enough. This was not the appropriate length for a skirt, but with the extra stripe, it makes a really cute mini skirt. So it is a discontinued yarn. So Universal Yarns does still have some, I believe, on their website, but it's very limited colorways. So I actually wore this. It looked awesome. However, I don't think I would be able to wear it all day. It doesn't have an elastic in this band. Now, it's fairly stretchy, but by the end of the night, I was a little concerned. Like, if it had been a longer night, it might have fallen down without me holding it up. So I need to somehow sew an elastic in here so that it will stay on my hips. And I feel like it needs a lining. So somehow I've got to figure out how to line this. Now, it didn't really matter at the dinner before because it was dark and the restaurant was very like dimly lit, and this part is a much tighter crochet than the part down at the bottom. So there was nothing like peeking out. Okay, don't worry about that. But I would feel more comfortable with it if it had a lining, or maybe I just wear leggings under it or something, but I would prefer if it had a lining and an elastic. So I don't know when I'm going to do that before the next time I wear it. But I really want to wear it again because I loved wearing it, and no one could tell that I made it myself. They were just like, oh, what a cute skirt. So I think it's awesome, but it does need a little extra attention. So I've put it back in the work in progress category until I can figure out how to thread my mom's sewing machine and sew an elastic in here. I will be trolling YouTube for tutorials, I'm sure. That's work in progress number 1. Was finished. Still technically finished, but it needs an elastic. Work in progress number 2, I did finally start. I've been talking about it for how long now? So long. And it's this tank top, the Make It Mint tank top from, hold on, I wrote this down. Simply Crochet issue 47. So that would have come out last year sometime. Summer last year, I think. And this is the top. This is a better picture of it. Isn't that cool? I think it's really cute. I started this a month ago, maybe, and I got like 3 rows in, and I wasn't happy with the starting chain. It was making the fabric crinkle up, like my starting chain was too tight. So I ripped it out. Then I started it with a chain. I chained with a larger hook. So I'm using a 4mm hook for the pattern. I chained with a 4.5mm hook. Started. I was happy with the front strip. So then I went on to make the back strip. It comes in 2 pieces. And it was crinkling horribly. And it wasn't even the same length as my front piece. So I ripped it out again. And then I tried to make it with a 4.5mm hook, both sides, and I wasn't happy with it. So I've ripped this starting thing out like 4 times now. So what I finally decided to do was a foundation single crochet. I don't know why I didn't think to do that to begin with. Which is much stretchier. So a starting chain, you can only go so far. The foundation single crochet is pretty stretchy. So this is one little piece, front or the back. Oh, I'm halfway through the row. I'm like, why is it different on one side? This is my favorite stitch marker I think that I've ever made. It's a little umbrella. I love it. It's the one I was using for my summer romance cow project because the yellow yarn and the gold umbrella just matched so well. This is the front and this is the back. This is a completed strip. This is only like 3 rows of the pattern. And I took this with me to knit night, which I will talk about. The reason I am making the front and the back at the same time is because I am using my leftover yarn from the Hotel of Bees crochet along. So I had this left and this from the Hotel of Bees, which is enough yarn, and I have another extra like third of a ball of blue. It'll be enough to make this whole tank top, and it's the right size yarn. This is Premier Cotton Fair. I don't remember what this colorway is called. Something crazy. This is just blue. This one has a weird name. I can't remember what it's called. I got it at Michael's. So I'm going to make it up until I run out of this yarn, and then make the rest of it in blue. Kind of like my Hotel of Bees cow. So I need to make both of these at the same time. I'm just going to do one stripe in each one until I run out of this yarn. And you know what? I know that I could weigh it and then split it up into 2 balls and do it that way. But that would just make too much sense, wouldn't it? So I've got these two little strips. Maybe I'll hopefully have a little bit more done on this project next time. The good news is, even though it's already July, if I don't get this finished until August, or even if I don't get it finished until September, I'll still have plenty of time to wear it because this is Florida and the summer lasts until January. So I'm really happy about this top. Now that it finally, this is not crinkling and won't stretch to the size of my hips. I make it. It's I didn't even tell you what the pattern was. Oh my God, I'm all over the place today. It's the Make It Mint top by Simone Francis, and I'll put it down at the bottom in case you want to look it up. And like I said, it's issue 47 of the Simply Crochet magazine. So are you ready for the main event of the Work in Progress show? This is my project for the Festival of Finishing, hosted by Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast. I wanted to submit it to the Finish Along, hosted by Catherine from Crafternoon Treats as well. I don't know if it's going to get done in time, because hers is a lot shorter of a time period. But if I have to bend down and get it, because I can't hold it. It's too big. It is my Granny Stripe king-sized crochet blanket. This is Vanish Choice yarn in navy. I am almost out of yarn. In fact, I have to go to Joann's after this podcast is done and buy another couple of balls because this is only going to get me maybe another stripe and a half in this blanket. That's all it's going to get me. So last time I said that my goal was to get this stripe finished. I'm sorry, I don't know how to show this to you. It's so big. Not only, I was 6 rows, oh Lord, I was 6 rows into this stripe last podcast. My goal was to get to here. So not only did I do all of these rows, which is 24 rows, I did the 2 white rows, and then 9 rows into the next and final stripe. Which means, you guys, I only have 23 more rows on this blanket. 21 blue and 2 white rows. It's so close. It's so close. but I'm almost out of yarn, so I've got to go buy probably another 5 balls of yarn. I can get about 3.5 stripes out of 1 ball of yarn because there are 300 stitches per row. Like I said, it is king-sized. But now, let me show you. It's taller than I am. So it's touching the floor right now, and there's still all that. It might end up being slightly too long. I think it will be slightly longer than a normal blanket, but it'll be too short if I stopped at this stripe. So I'd rather it be too long than too short. I don't know if you can see this. It's so big. This is the blanket so far. There's something else though. Not only did I get a stripe and 9 extra rows finished, I weaved in every single end. Every end. There is not one end hanging off this blanket right now, which means at the end when I'm done with 23 more rows, the only ends I'm going to have to weave in are the ones that I've finished in the next week and a half. I think it's actually going to get finished. I've been dreading this project. It's been haunting me for a year and a half now, maybe a little bit longer than that. This time last year, I had about 2 stripes done. Now it is 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stripes plus a little bit, so it's going to be 6 total. There are 30 rows in a stripe plus the 2 white rows. I am using a 5.5 millimeter hook for the whole blanket. This is the Granny Stripe pattern by Pearl Soho, which is a really lovely pattern. I just don't know what possessed me to make a king-size blanket. But I will tell you, having done this much since the beginning of May, that I will have an insane amount of yards to add to the Keep Calm and Carry Yarn podcast cow thread. And I don't know what I'm going to do when I finish this blanket. Maybe I'm going to buy myself a skein of fancy yarn. In fact, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Because finishing this blanket, I feel like I deserve a medal. Who makes a king-size striped blanket? Even if you're making a king-size blanket, you normally would make it in pieces, right? So you would have some sense of accomplishment, not just a row. And every row takes me like a half an hour, so I would say I have about 12 more hours of work on this blanket because I've got 23 rows plus some ends to weave in. I'm not going to block it per se. I'm just going to throw it in the washer and dryer. This Vanish Choice yarn is completely machine washable and dryable. It's 100% acrylic, and it's pretty cheap at Joann's, especially if you have a coupon. And I really like how it works up for a blanket. I have a smaller, like couch-sized blanket that I had made last year in this yarn, and it has held up really well, and it's been washed a lot because I have allergies, so I'm constantly washing everything that's made out of cloth to get rid of the dust. So even folded up, it's bigger than the screen. So everyone who comes into the guest bedroom, because that's where this is going to go, better be amazed by this blanket. Because that's a year and a half of my life that I'll never get back. So those are all my works in progress, you guys. But I do have some other stuff to talk about. One is I am going to do a giveaway of the creme de la creme top that I showed in the last podcast episode that was way too big for me. It was just literally falling off of my body. Let me show it to you. This is the creme de la creme top. It is made out of Patton's Canadiana yarn in their colorway Toffee Crunch. I had this yarn in stash for a long time and I wanted to use it. So I used it, and then I didn't like it. I just, and not because the yarn's not pretty, it's just not my colorway. So it's got this lacy fan pattern, and then it goes into a section like this, which is about where your waist is, and then it does the fan pattern all the way up to the top. Some people, I had asked for advice of what to do with this. Some people suggested I donate it, some people suggested I just frog it and use the yarn for something else, but I've decided to do a giveaway with it because I don't want to just donate this, because it took a lot of hours, and I do think it's a beautiful top, and I know somebody will appreciate it. I don't want someone to just buy it for like $2 at a thrift store and then not know how it, not be crochet worthy, a crochet worthy person. So it is a very specific size though, so you have to be the right size to enter this giveaway. This top is 22 inches wide at the bust, the whole way down. So it's a rectangle. So that would make it 44 inches around the bust. It does have a little bit of ease, but not much. So I would say probably this is an extra large top. So it's 22 inches wide and 28 inches long. The neck portion right here, it's got like a scoop neck. This is 13 inches wide. So if you are that size, and I'll put this size in Ravelry as well. I'm going to open up a thread on Ravelry, and I will list the measurements of this garment. If you would like to own this and wear it, you simply need to comment on that thread, and I will use a random number generator and pick someone. I think that I can get this in a flat rate U.S. shipping box, so it should get there pretty quickly. And I will draw the winner. Hopefully in the next podcast I'll draw a winner. So if you are this size and you like this top, you would like to own something handmade by me, then please go to Ravelry and comment. I will open that thread today. By the time this podcast goes up, there will be the thread open. You don't need to tell me anything. Just tell me that you would like it, and I will consider you for the prize. And then hopefully someone will love it. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is the title of this episode, which is my first knit night. Now, obviously, I don't knit, okay, so don't get scared. I crochet. But if you have been with me since episode 1, you will know that my goals for 2017 were to find some actual project bags to put my projects in instead of carrying everything around in plastic grocery bags, and to actually go to a local yarn store knit group, or it doesn't even have to be a yarn store, but a knitting group in my local city and meet real life yarny people. So I have definitely gotten some project bags. I have not carried anything around, any plastic grocery bag in months, so check off for number 1. And this past week, I went to my first knit night at my local yarn store, which I actually had not been to before. Although I've been to plenty of yarn stores, I just hadn't been to the one in St. Petersburg where I live. But I don't know why, I just hadn't made it in. So it is called Stash, a place for yarn. Do it this way. And this is their little card. So if you live in Tampa, you live in St. Pete, it's a really cute little yarn store. They actually just moved to, it's like an old house. So it's got all these little rooms. They have a room where we did the actual yarny gathering, which has like really comfy chairs and like yarn on the wall, and it's just really pretty. So I went. There was probably about 6 people there. It was from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. I think I showed up around 6, and I did stay for 2 hours. The owner of the yarn store's name is Kristen. She's super sweet. And I walked in and I was like, hey, I know you guys are knitting, but is it okay if I crochet? And obviously they had no problem with that. So I had a great time. I worked on this. for those 2 hours, and I want to say I got, of the back piece, maybe like 4 rows done, 4 or 5. I think I'd started on the 5th row in those 2 hours. And they were all like super interested in the project that I was working on, and they were making some beautiful knitted projects as well. And it was just really nice to meet yarny people in real life and be like, talk about yarn, because obviously if you're not a yarny person, you don't necessarily want to hear someone ramble about squishing yarn in the project that they're making. So even my most long-suffering friends, they have a limit. I can like see their eyes glaze over, so I try to keep the yarn talk to myself. But I didn't have to, because I got to say whatever I wanted, and everyone knew what I was talking about. There was a beautiful knitted fade shawl on the chair, just hanging on the chair that I was sitting in. So if you're a knitter, you'll know the Find Your Fade shawl. It's like a huge knitted shawl. It's gorgeous. And there is a crochet version called the Blur by A Day Designs. Speaking of the Blur, I didn't even write this down in my notes of things to talk about, but I need to tell you this. So the Blur shawl is kind of like a crochet. It's a crochet fade. So the knitted fade is like it goes from one end to the other, whereas the Blur goes top down, and it is like a giant crescent. Rosina from the Zines and Roger podcast, which I love, by the way. If you haven't checked out her podcast, you need to check it out on YouTube. She cracks me up. If I'm having a bad day, I love to go watch her podcast, and she makes the most amazing things with color. She's always like making blankets and shawls, and she made a Blur shawl. And in her Blur shawl was a stripe of neon yellow yarn, which I love. And now I have an idea that I want to make a neon Blur shawl. I don't know when, because I do not own any neon yarn. So I'm going to have to slowly acquire it. You need several skeins to make that. So I'm not going to be making it anytime soon. But as soon as I can get my hands on some bright yarn, I want to make the Blur shawl. Like neon yellow, neon green, neon pink, electric blue. All of those I want to be in the Blur, because I love fun colors. So, sidebar, the Blur is cool, and Rosina from the Zines and Roger podcast is cool. You need to check her out. Check both of them out, because they're awesome. But they had this beautiful fade over the back. They had like hummus and chips you could eat. I wandered all around the store. I squished all of the yarn. They have some relatively inexpensive yarn that's like $8 to $10 a hank. And then they have some that's, $40, $50 as well. They carry hedgehog fibers, which I love. And they also carry a local yarn dyer in Tampa called Fiber Seed, which I've never heard of before. So I'm going to have to check that out sometime. She has some beautiful hand-dyed yarns. I did make a purchase, so this is kind of an acquisition segment as well. Not quite ready to start the project yet. So I had those 2 goals for 2017. Go to a local knit night and meet yarny people, and then get some project bags. My goal, if I could, and I might get there by the end of the year, but definitely for 2018 if I don't, is to learn how to do Tunisian crochet. And my timetable moved up on that a little bit. The reason I want to learn Tunisian crochet is to make this shawl, which is the Temperamental Artist shawl. It is out of the Shawl Project, Book 3, by Kat Golden and Joanne Grace. Faye from the Crochet Circle podcast sent me this book because I wanted it, because she's so sweet, and I wanted it because of this pattern. Now, I want to make the other patterns too, but this pattern is the reason I wanted this book. So look at those beautiful shells. I'm sorry, that's kind of dark. I don't know if you can see it very well. So I have the book. I still don't know how to Tunisian crochet. However, I now have the yarn for the pattern. I had gotten paid for some hats that I made as a commission for someone. They had ordered some hats for me. So I got $30. And when I was at the knit night, I bought these 3 yarns. Can you see how perfect this is going to be? So I got this one. Let me see if they've got the names. They don't really. So this yarn is Barocco Modern Cotton DK, which is at the local yarn stores $10 a ball. I've seen it for $8 a ball. It doesn't really have color names. Like this is color 6652. Real original, guys. So it's kind of like a aquamarine. And then the next color is color 6624, which is like a light sea blue. And then there's this beautiful 6608 gray, silver gray. And this is 60% Pima cotton, 40% rayon, 100 grams, 335 yards per skein. So I got 3 skeins for $30, which I think is a great price for this yarn. And now I have the yarn for that pattern. So I still have to learn how to Tunisian crochet first. I can't just start on that pattern, I don't think. But this is calling to me. I need to do this. So maybe my timetable on Tunisian crochet has been moved up once that king size blanket is done. I don't know. I may have to start learning how to do that. But first, there is a shawl that I have got to start. And I was going to start it after I finished that stripe in the king size blanket, but I think I'm going to wait until the actual whole blanket is finished. I showed it in the last episode. It is the Coliseum pattern by Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast. And I've had this yarn to make it in. It's also the Barocco Modern Cotton DK. I got this when I was in Austin, Texas for work, and it was only $8 there. But it was a larger yarn store, so that makes sense. And of course, there's no color names, but it's just a beautiful blue, beautiful pink. I don't know, I feel like it's kind of washing it out a little bit. The lighting is kind of weird today because it stormed this morning like the apocalypse. In fact, I am recording, it's like noon now. I meant to record this first thing in the morning, but it was thundering so loudly that like the walls were vibrating. So I had to wait. But now I feel like it's kind of like a yellow-gray outside. I don't know. Hopefully you can see how beautiful this yarn is. If I put it on the white background, it'll be better. So I can't wait to start that project because it's going to be amazing. It's the only thing I'm going to want to work on as soon as I start it. So that's why I have been waiting. The last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, I have a request. If you can help me. So for 2 reasons. One is I have made enough garments out of worsted weight yarn. I need to start making them out of sport weight, fingering weight, and sock. Fingering and sock is the same thing. Fingering and lace weight yarn. The problem is a lot of sock yarn is relatively expensive. And I'm not saying that it is not worth it to buy beautiful hand-dyed fingering weight yarn for a garment. However, when you are making garments, it is a big cost commitment up front. So for this one right here, I bought 6 balls of this 24/7 cotton. And the Hobby Lobby, I love this cotton. I had 6 balls, and it was about $30 total for all of the yarn for this one garment, and another $30 for this. If you're going to buy 6 hand-dyed skeins of yarn, let's just say they're $30 each, because that seems to be an average price. You can find some for more, of course, if there's silk involved, baby camel involved. You can pay $40, $45. You can find some for less, maybe $20. But let's just say $30. If you were going to buy 6 of those, that's $180. for one garment. Now, that is completely worth it if if you have the ability to purchase that, or if you save up and you want to make something beautifully special. But just where I'm at in my life, I cannot afford to spend $180 on one piece of crochet. Now, if I was making a shawl that called for one or maybe two skeins, then it would be perfectly fine. Or if there was a really special project that I had saved for. But just like this, something I'm going to go through in a month and have ready to wear, I don't know that I can do that. So my request is, all of you out there in the yarn community have been working with yarns for quite a long time. So I want to pick your brains. I would like to know your favorite, or even your multiple favorites, fingering or sock weight yarn, or even lace weight yarn, I'll take both, that is $10 or less. It does not have to be able to be purchased in a brick and mortar store, although Joann's and Michael's and Hobby Lobby are great. Online orders are fine. If bonus points if it's $5 or under. So for example, I really like this wool-like yarn from Loops and Threads that Michael's has. This ball it's a lace weight superfine yarn. You get 678 yards for 100 grams, and it's $4. It's 100% acrylic, so of course the cheaper you get, obviously the more acrylic you're going to get. But it's very soft and it holds up very well. I've made 2 shawls out of it. And I'm thinking, because it's like more of a lace weight yarn, if you wanted this to be like, you could double strand this. And I may actually double strand this in a project in the future. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. So if it's $10 or less, like for example, this Barocco cotton was $10. Of course, this is a DK weight yarn. It's not necessarily a fingering weight yarn. But any skinny yarn that you can think of, that you've used in the past and liked, that is $10 or under, if you could just leave a comment below in the YouTube bar, and eventually I will get a hold of some and I'll try to do a review of them. So for everyone who doesn't know about certain yarns, like if you've never used wool-like before, then I would like to try some new yarns and try to make some garments out of new yarns that won't break the bank. So that is my request to you. If you know of a yarn, please comment below and let me know. And my second request is, I have a yarn cake that was gifted to me. It is scratchy. It's definitely an animal fiber. I don't know what, probably wool. So it's 200 grams. I had the yarn store weigh it. They could not figure out what kind of yarn it is, other than it's definitely an animal project, an animal fiber. So the really unique thing about this yarn is that it's not plied. There are 5 strands of this yarn in different colors. So there's 2 like white strands, and then there's one that's like a medium gold, and then there's 2 that are like a brownish color. They're not plied at all. They're just 5 strands. And I don't know what to do with this. I don't want to make a shawl out of it because it's too scratchy. But I can't necessarily I don't know how many yards there is, because it's already in a cake. So I'd have to make some kind of project that doesn't matter, that I can stop whenever I run out of yarn. I don't know what type of yarn this is. I don't know where it came from. And I'm guessing it's about when all 5 strands are together, it's about a worsted weight thickness. So if you have any ideas of a project that I could use this yarn for, I would appreciate it, because I would really like to use it. It's a beautiful color. But I don't want to start something and then get halfway through it and then run out of yarn. And I would like to use most of it up. So it needs to be about a 200 gram project, I would think, because I don't want to have any of this left over, because I don't know what to do with it. So those are my 2 requests. If you can think of some fingering or lace weight yarns for $10 or less, comment below. If you have an idea of what to do with this, comment below. And please enter the giveaway for this creme de la creme top. If you would like it to come live with you, I will do a drawing by the next podcast episode. So just go to the Ravelry group, search for the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast, and it will pop up for you in the groups tab. And then just comment if you would like to have this. I think that's about it. That was kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot. It's kind of a rainy day. I am very, very hyper today. It doesn't help me that I'm wearing this garment that I made myself. It brings my energy level like way up. So I think I'm going to sign off for now instead of just continuing to talk your ear off. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please do email me at thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. I will see you guys in 2 weeks, and I hope you are having a wonderful summer. Bye!